I found the top 10 coolest bounty hunters in Star Wars, and in this video, I'm going to rank them all from absolute worst to absolute best. And at number 10, as the worst bounty hunter on this list, I put my boy Greedo. As far as I know, Greedo has only ever made one appearance in Star Wars cinema, and that was his classic scene in Episode 4, A New Hope. Basically, Greedo confronts Han Solo, looking to collect on a bounty and deliver Han to Jabba the Hutt. Naturally, Han doesn't like that, so they get into a little gunfight, and let's just say that Greedo bites the dust. Now, this does spark the age-old question of who shot first, Han or Greedo? I've seen a lot of arguments about this online, but the final answer is that Greedo actually shot first. Anyway, the main reason that I put this funky looking Rodian way down here at number 10 is because, as far as I can tell, he sucks at his job. I mean, he literally tracks down, captures, and kills people for a living, and he couldn't even take on one mere smuggler. What a loser. Anyway, with that out of the way, we're gonna shapeshift our way onto number 9, and I say shapeshift because the number 9 spot is Zam Wesell. Now, Zam is funny because, like Greedo, she also seems to be bad at her job. The reason I say that is because do you know how freaking easy it would have been to kill Padme? I mean, actually, you know exactly where she is, you know exactly how to get to her, and you think to yourself, yeah, I should use some bugs, just some big old bugs with a couple hundred legs. So that was dumb. And then on top of that, there was no reason that she should have gotten caught. I mean, realistically, if she had just been a few hundred miles away, then Anakin and Obi-Wan would have never linked it back to her. I mean, how would they have? And then finally, the funniest thing about Zam to me is that she even got hired in the first place. I saw some YouTube short about this, and it kind of explains it better than I could, so I'll just play that.
So Palpatine needs Padme dead, but he doesn't want to do it himself. So he asks Count Dooku to go kill Padme. But Count Dooku doesn't want to do it himself. So Count Dooku asks Jango Fett to go kill Padme. But Jango Fett doesn't want to do it himself. So he asks his shapeshifter friend to go kill Padme. But the shapeshifter sends a robot to go kill Padme. And if you really want to be an asshole and get even more granular, the droid says, I'll send these little bugs to go kill Padme.
I think that just about explains it, and that, holy cow, that video got 15 million views? Man, I am making the wrong kind of content here. But I like you guys too much to stop. You always bring a smile on my face, so thank you. Regardless, you may be asking yourself, Jedward, given Zam's incredible lack of skill at bounty hunting, why is she above Greedo on this list? And quite frankly, the answer is that I think Zam's shapeshifting ability is cool. I mean, it gives her some brownie points in my book. I just kind of like it. It's not the greatest argument in the world, but hey, I gotta rank these guys somehow. Anyway, up next to number 8, we have Embo, and I know that there's this one guy in my comment section who absolutely loves Embo. I mean, just adores him. So, sorry to break it to you, buddy, but I am putting him at the number 8 spot. If it's any comfort, the reason that I put him here isn't because he's a bad character or a bad bounty hunter. It's simply because every other bounty hunter on this list is just a little bit better, just a little. Again, that's not to say that Embo is bad at all, because he's not. I love his shield hat, and I think he has the record for the sickest spin kick in Star Wars. He jumps like 20 feet in the air, spins counterclockwise, and just decks this chump right here. Hats off to you, champ, and in Embo's case, I mean that literally. Moving on to number 7, we have Fennec Shand, who honestly is kind of an underrated bounty hunter in my opinion. I mean, she has some cool skills and abilities, and she is definitely good in a fight. And honestly, I kind of vibe with her character design. The colors are a nice contrast, and her helmet's not bad either, with that slit in the middle. Also, it doesn't really hurt that Ming-Na Wen is pretty easy on the eyes, although unfortunately, in the show, she is just completely overshadowed by that one Gamorrean guard. I mean, who could ever hope to look better than that guy? It's a losing battle. But jokes aside, Fennec was a solid character, with an interesting story. And again, when someone who's supposed to be a random sidekick to the main character is actually more interesting and more impressive than the main character himself, you know that you've messed up. Anyway, now we're heading closer to the middle of the list, and approaching the number 6 spot, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Boba Fett. I know that you might be surprised I'm ranking him this low, given that he's one of the most infamous characters in all of Star Wars. And believe me, it's with a very heavy heart that I do so. My entire childhood, I always thought that Boba Fett was so cool. I mean, I know he didn't really do that much in the originals, but something about him was just so appealing to me as a kid. And apparently, it was to thousands of other people too, because we all know how popular he was. Then I watched the Clone Wars, and I got to see his story unfold even more, from a young kid to a teenager. And again, I walked away liking him more than I had before. So when Disney announced that there would be a show called The Book of Boba Fett about Boba Fett, I remember being so excited. The first episode dropped, and me and my dad both sat down to watch it together. And I just recall that as the show went on, we both realized that this was not the Boba Fett that he'd grown up with in the 80s and that I'd come to know in the 2010s. This character was wishy-washy, weak, pathetic, and like I said earlier, completely overshadowed by a ton of other characters in the show. And also, we all know in the back of our our minds how easy it would have been to make a really good Boba Fett show. Like, this should have been a slam dunk for Disney. But no, they just had to completely change his character and make him a nice guy. It honestly really does make me sad, because now I have to put him literally above the middle of the list, when in reality, he should be sitting somewhere in the top 3. An actual shame. But you know what they say, no point crying over spilled milk, unless it's this milk, in which case you'll catch me sobbing till the cows come home, believe that. Regardless, on to the middle of the list, and coming in at number 5, we have the legendary Aurra Sing. But speaking of pale, mostly bald ladies with a giant stick up their head, that reminds me. Hello there everybody, my name is Jedward, and I make tons of videos about Star Wars and other franchises like it. And if you're enjoying this video so far, it would mean the world to me if you'd hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Now, Aurra Sing is, in my opinion, one of the coolest bounty hunters in the Clone Wars, and I kind of love how they took a character who appeared for maybe 2 seconds in The Phantom Menace and thought, you know what, let's make her the most sociopathic bounty hunter that the world has ever seen, and then they made her a heartless monster. But as far as bounty hunting goes, she's pretty epic. She's ruthlessly efficient, incredibly skilled in most forms of combat, whether that be flying, shooting, or hand-to-hand, and like I said previously, she has no soul. There's not even that much more that I can say. Overall, I just thought that she was a really good bounty hunter, and I enjoyed watching the episode she was in. Now, this is the part of the list where we start getting to some actually good bounty hunters, like some actual legends in the field. And speaking of legends, did anyone call Dr. Kurt Connors? Because I think he's next up on the list. Oh wait, no, it's just Bossk, the Wookiee's worst nightmare. Like any intelligent human being, I freaking love Bossk. I think that he's so cool, and he's an all-around epic character to me. His entire persona of a primal hunter who will do anything to catch his prey just struck home with me. And I think that he's one of the few people in the world that you can actually describe with the adjective savage. Also, my love for him goes back to my Star Wars Battlefront days, when you could buy the extension pack and get Bossk as a villain. All I remember is putting on that thermal vision and running around the map like a wounded animal, looking for rebels to shred. Ah, core memories of childhood. In the Clone Wars, Bossk was a master with a lot of different weapons, including his trademark mortar blaster, but he really shone through in unarmed combat. Don't ask me why, but for some reason, the 7-foot-tall lizard species has incredible strength and is a real threat. In fact, word on the street is that Bossk's physical strength is second to no one but the infamous Micah Soda, who's commonly regarded as one of the strongest men alive, and also, coincidentally, the first ever person to become a member on my YouTube channel, which any of you can do too if you're looking to support me as a creator and get yourself some special privileges while you're at it. If you're interested, just click on the join button right under this video. Alright, thank you so much, and with that, let's move on to number 3, who's the infamous Jango Fett. What's so great about Jango Fett is that he has so many gadgets that we actually get to see him use. He's got Beskar armor, a surface-to-air missile on his back, serrated blades in his gauntlets, a flamethrower on his wrist, a grappling wire on his forearm, and that's just scratching the surface of what we get to see. On top of that, he's a legendary warrior, and there's a reason they chose him to be the template for all of the other clones. And of course, how could anyone forget that he was the original owner of the one and only Slave One, which is probably my all-time favorite ship in all of Star Wars. I think it's so cool, I absolutely love it. Regardless, Jango is in the spot where Boba should have been, but because Disney actually left Jango alone instead of messing with him like they did with Boba, it pains me to say that I have to put Jango higher up on this list than Boba. But again, what's done is done, nothing we can do about it, and let's get into the top 2 bounty hunters, and these ones are both absolute legends. So I'm very excited to say that as the second coolest bounty hunter in Star Wars, we have the Mandalorian, or maybe I should be more specific, because we have a lot of Mandalorians, so I'm talking about Din Djarin. Now, to be fair, Din Djarin wasn't a bounty hunter for too long, and he doesn't hunt bounties anymore, but in season 1 of the Mandalorian, I think it's safe to say that he captured all of our hearts, and there's a reason that when it released, it was so popular right out of the gate. I mean, literally, that one throwaway line in episode 1 gave me chills when I first heard it. Here, take a listen.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
What a boss moment, and I really don't think that I have to explain much further what makes the Mandalorian so great. Truly a legend. And speaking of legends, we've just arrived at the number 1 spot on our list. If you like Star Wars, and I'm sure you do if you're watching this video, then I'm guessing you know and love this guy, and swaggering his way in with a dope hat and the coolest voice in the galaxy, it's the man who needs no introduction, Cad Bane. Cad Bane is a bounty hunting legend, and throughout the entire Clone Wars, he usually got hired out by various Sith, usually Dooku, but sometimes Sidious himself, to do a job that nobody else was fit for. That's how skilled he was. And speaking of Sith, you need to watch this video right here, where I ranked every Sith in Star Wars from absolute worst to absolute best. I promise that you'll like it.